Morning, everybody. How are you? So it's intriguing as to how we talked about yesterday, about how people will hold you back. They're not really doing it for their own. They're not really doing it intentionally. They just don't realise that they're doing it. So this is the decision where we come next, is how to make a no-lose decision in terms of how we're doing it. So one of the biggest fears that keep us from moving ahead in our lives is a difficulty in making decisions. As someone I know once said, sometimes I feel like the proverbial donkey between two bales of hay, unable to decide which one I want. And in the meantime, I starve to death. The irony, of course, is that by not choosing, we're choosing to starve. We're choosing to deprive ourselves of what makes life a delicious feast. Morning, Andrea. Morning, Sarah. The problem is that we have been taught, be careful. You might make the wrong decision. Does that sound familiar? I've had it loads of times. Morning, Alana. A wrong decision. Just the sound of that can bring terror to our hearts. Morning, Anne-Marie. We're afraid that the wrong decision will deprive us of something. Money, friends, love, status, or whatever the right decision is supposed to bring us. Closely tied to this is our panic over making mistakes. Morning, Mike. For some reason, we feel that we should be perfect when we start. You're talking to the perfectionist himself. And forget that we learn through our mistakes. Our need to be perfect and our need to control the outcome of our events work together to keep us petrified when we think about making a change or attempt a new challenge. If the above describes you, I've just said, I'm going to demonstrate that you are worrying needlessly. There is really nothing to lose, only something to gain. Whatever the choices you make or your actions you take in life. As I stated earlier, all you have to do to change your world is to change the way you think about it. This concept works beautifully here. You can actually shift your thinking in a way to make from a wrong decision or making an impossibility of a decision. So let's begin with the decision-making process. Morning, Louise. Suppose you're at a choice point in life. If you're like most of us, you've been taught to use the no-win model. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'm still here. Hello. As you think about the decisions made in your life, the model looks like this. So this is a classic example. Your heart feels heavy about the choice you have to make. So there's your choice at the bottom, at the top. You feel somewhat paralysed as you think about the consequences in the life and death terms. You stand at the threshold of decision, laminated, obsessing. Should I do this? Should I do that? And what if it goes this way? And what if that happens? And what if that doesn't work out the way I plan? And what if that? And what ifs and what ifs in full force? That internal chatterbox is at it again and again, pulling you down. You look at the unknown and try to predict the future. You try to take control of outside forces, but both are impossible. At this point, you might notice how crazy you're driving yourself. After the decision made, the no-win model makes you constantly reassess the situation, hoping you didn't make the mistake. You keep looking back and breathing to yourself, if only I had. You waste valuable energy and you also make yourself miserable in the process. You gain relief if the outcome is as you hoped it would be, but you always think it's only temporarily. It's that internal chatterbox again. As you breathe a sigh of relief, you're already worrying about the situation might reverse itself and it might be ultimately proved to be the wrong decision in the beginning. Furthermore, you're already fearful about the next decision you have to make because you have to go through the whole agonizing process all over again. Does that sound familiar? Crazy, isn't it? Clearly, this is the no-win situation, but there is another way. The no-lose model. So go back and stand at the choice point, and I'll show you here. Again, the time, the situation looks like this. Notice what lies ahead are simply two paths, A and B, both of which are right. You're clearly facing a no-lose situation. And what are these goodies on both sides? They are the opportunities to experience life in a new way, to learn and grow, and to find out who you are and what you really are like to be, and what you would like to do with your life. Each path is strewn with opportunities, despite the outcome. What? Despite the outcome? Despite the outcome, you're a win-win situation. Up to this point, you may have been willing to to go along with me, but these three words are making you a little dubious, if not downright resistant. So what if comes up again in your thinking? Let me answer the what ifs with an example here. Imagine you're faced with the choice of staying with your present job or taking a new one that is opened up for you. If you stand at the no-win choice point, your chatterbox takes over and the craziness begins. If I stay here, I might be missing a very good chance to move ahead. But if I go, maybe I won't be able to handle my new responsibilities. What if I get fired from the new job? Then I have nothing. I really like it here. I have more opportunity to move ahead on the new job though. Maybe they'll promote me and I'll be making more money. But what if I regret leaving? What if? Oh, I don't know what to do next. I could ruin my whole life if I make the wrong decision. Does that sound familiar? Morning, Francis. It does with me. I've been through this before. If you stand at the no-lose choice point, your fearlessness self takes over. Isn't it fantastic? This is how you think. If you're standing at the no-lose, you always win. Isn't it fantastic? I've been offered a new job. If I take it, I'll have the opportunity to meet new people, to learn new ways of doing things, to experience an entirely different work atmosphere, and to broaden my base of experience. So what happens if it doesn't work out? Well, I know I can handle it. I've done this loads of times in the past. I actually made myself redundant one time to save the company overall. And that company still exists today. Did it bother me? No. I just went and got another job. And somewhere else, I actually accelerated onto another position and actually went even higher after a couple of weeks. Even though the job market is difficult right now, I know somehow I'll find another job. Since I learn to deal with the loss of the job and I learn to solve the problems that might come up if I'm unemployed. If I stay, I have the opportunity to deepen the contacts that I have made already here. I really feel better about myself having been offered the job. So if I stay, perhaps I'll ask for a promotion. If for some reason it doesn't work out here, then there'll be other opportunities to pursue. It's all an adventure, no matter which way I turn. And that is the win-win situation. You cannot lose. Either way, you win in that scenario. And that's how we have to think as people. And that's how you move on as a result. I really do know people who think this way, myself included. And their approach to life is to be a joy to be around. Well, I'm not sure about that. If it's me. They truly live in the no-lose world. So here's a perfect example of Alex. Now, Pratt's in psychology in Los Angeles. He originally intended to follow his father's footsteps and become a lawyer. His college grades were excellent and he had no trouble getting to what he was considered a fine law school. He studied hard and he did very well for the first 2 years, but by the time he spent away from home, been making a difference to his personal priorities. He came to realise that he didn't want to spend the rest of his life in the combat zone, as he called it. That being a lawyer required what it required. He wanted to help people in a different way and he decided to go into clinical psychology, which was much more in line with his personality. He also realised that part of his decisions to be a lawyer was his desire to please his father. But now he is much more in touch with the person inside himself, and he made the decision to leave the law school and pursue his career in psychology. He gave his father, his father gave him his blessing, but refused to pay any of his college expenses, thus increasing the difficulty of the decision. But Alex trusted his gut and withdrew from the situation and that did not suit his needs. Some, including his father, saw these 2 years at law school as a waste of time and money, but Alex never saw it that way. By trying it out, he discovered that being a lawyer was not really for him. Finding out what he didn't like is paradoxically as valuable as finding out what you do like. Also, while at law school, he made a number of good friends who remain his friends today, and the information he has gathered from those first 2 years has helped him in many personal, professional situations since. So for Alex, the goodies didn't end there. Since his father stopped paying his expenses, he had to work for 2 years to obtain enough money to get started in his degree in psychology. These 2 years weren't wasted. Not at all. His job with the construction company was doubly enriching, which exposed him to a different way of life. And through one of his co-workers, he met a woman who became his wife eventually. With the fellowship within his 2 part-time jobs, Alex was able to complete his doctorate. And that's a classic example in a win-win situation where you can go from a position of where you have no decision at all and it's indecision, which really makes a decision for you. Because by not making a decision, guess what? You're making a decision. To actually seeing the good in everything else that came after it. And I'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.